Mr. Secretary, I was surprised to learn that medical research has discovered the probability, that men and women who serve our nation develop certain cancers more prevalent among them than the general population. Are you aware of this?
But we did find lots of other research inside the Defense Department to the tens and millions, and in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars that was a boondoggle for the American people.
Why?
And
Why do you say,
proud to get
give me
rid
an
of it.
example of a boondoggle in medical research in
There are
defense health.
I mean, we're talking about some stuff I shouldn't say in public.
Patriots, let me tell you something that absolutely lit a fire in my chest this morning. You know, we live in a time where common sense is treated like a conspiracy theory, and true patriotism is mocked by the very people who are supposed to serve us. Well, today, we're going to talk about something that'll get your blood boiling, and it damn well should. I'm talking about the absolute disgrace that came out of a recent government hearing. And believe me, if you care even a little bit about our brave men and women in uniform, you're going to want to hear this. Because what we just witnessed was nothing short of betrayal. Let's break it down. Military medical research, cut by 23%. Did you hear that right? Yes. The so-called leaders at the Department of Defense, under this current administration, decided to slash nearly a quarter of the funding for defense medical research. Now ask yourself, who's that research for? It's not for politicians or lobbyists. It's not for some Ivy League lab trying to play God with human DNA. No, that research is for our warriors. The people who volunteered to stand between us and evil. The people who come home from battlefields with missing limbs, PTSD, brain injuries, and now, apparently, higher cancer rates than the average American. And you want to tell me with a straight face that we're going to cut their lifeline to healing, to understanding what's happening inside their bodies, just so we can play budget games and fund parades and pet projects? Give me a break. I don't know about you, but I am sick of hearing about waste, fraud, and abuse being the excuse every time a career bureaucrat wants to gut something essential. You know what's wasteful? Spending $45 million on a damn parade for the president. That's not patriotism, that's political theater. We've got veterans coming home, dealing with traumatic brain injuries from IED blasts, from heavy artillery duty, from repeated exposure to combat zones. And instead of increasing their care, this administration is pulling the plug on their future? The hidden cost of service. Let me tell you something else that came out of this hearing. Military personnel, because of their unique exposure to combat environments, are developing serious health issues, including cancer. That's right. Cancer. Not just physical trauma, not just mental health issues, but cancer at rates higher than the civilian population. And guess what? The Secretary of Defense said he wasn't even familiar with the study at first. Excuse me. You're the man in charge of the Department of Defense. The very title implies you should be defending these people, yet you're not even up to speed on the diseases killing them? But the moment the senator pressed him on it, suddenly, he remembered. He talked about buddies he served with who struggled, who took their own lives, who suffered. And yet, in the same breath, he defends cutting the budget for the very research that might have saved those lives? That's not leadership. That's cowardice wrapped in bureaucracy. And then, oh, this one really takes the cake. When the senator demanded to know what kind of waste they were cutting to justify this, the Secretary of Defense referenced, wait for it, marbles in the rear ends of cats.
My turn.
I can take a second.
We're just going to have to get the gentleman from Kansas a clock.
I thought it meant I had 4 minutes and 55 seconds left.
Mr. Secretary, I was surprised to learn that medical research has discovered the probability, that men and women who serve our nation develop certain cancers more prevalent among them than the general population. Are you aware of this?
That men and women in uniform may develop certain different cancers than civilians?
More frequent and the like?
I'm not familiar with the particular study that you're referring to, but I'd be interested to see it.
Also, I learned at the same time that brain injuries are particularly prevalent among some members of our military. And understanding the violence of that experience, it's not a surprise. But it does have long-term impact. Were you aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Do you know why?
Well, decades of deployments to places where explosions, large and small, happen on the regular basis, and certain people are right next to small explosions on a regular basis or big explosions in one incident, or they have a duty MOS, like you're an artilleryman, where the constant thud of that alters the physical aspect of your brain in ways that we don't fully understand, but we know are caused by that service. So we're very aware of that.
Do you feel a special responsibility as Secretary of Defense representing these services and the men and women who are part of them to make sure that we get as quickly as we can to the bottom of this and figure out what we can do, if anything, to reduce the likelihood of additional cancers or brain injuries?
Senator, I served with a lot of men who were affected by, in a lot of ways, by those types of symptoms, including symptoms that led to the taking of their own life.
Yes.
This is a deadly serious issue. We are committed to getting to the bottom of who it affects and why, and making sure we do right by it.
So let me tell you what I've done about it. As chairman of this subcommittee at one point in time, we have dramatically increased the medical research to protect the men and women in uniform. As we learn these things, we want to get to the bottom of it as quickly as possible. It is enough for me that they risk their lives for our country. We shouldn't make it a more dangerous situation, and we ought to understand what's going on in their minds and their bodies when they serve. And as a result of that, we have dramatically increased defense medical research. I think we owe it to the men and women in uniform. Your budget cuts two-thirds of that amount for defense health research. How can that be consistent with our mutual goal of making the military life a safer life for our men and women in uniform?
Well, Senator, I would take issue with your characterization that all two-thirds of that, whatever was reduced, is focused on the issues that you just spoke about, because those are issues that, as a secretary who's very close to these issues and knows people close to these issues, my team knows that's exactly the type of research that we would fund. But we did find lots of other research inside the Defense Department to the tens and millions, and in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars that was a boondoggle for the American people.
Why?
And
Why do you say,
proud to get
give me
rid
an
of it.
example of a boondoggle in medical research in
There are
defense health?
I mean, we're talking about some stuff I shouldn't say in public. You know, marbles in the rear ends of cats. Tens of millions of dollars, things that don't have
like the
a connection to what you're talking about.
So I respect the 350-year-old Social Security check that the president told us?
Senator, I respect completely the issue that you're speaking with, and this department couldn't be more sympathetic to that and ensure that it's funded. But the Defense Department has been a place where organizations, entities, and companies know they can get money almost unchecked to whether or not it actually applies to things that happen on the battlefield. That's what we worked very hard to find in ways that other secretaries have not.
Let me tell you,
this committee and others talk about waste, fraud, and abuse all the time. We have actually gone after waste, fraud, and abuse, because every dollar that's spent is a dollar we can pour into the war.
Eliminating two-thirds of the money for defense health research, put that next to the decision to cut NIH medical research by 40%. Does that make America great again for these military families? I don't think so. $45 million for a parade, for God's sake. Money should be put in defense medical research instead of wasted on some pomp and circumstance for the president. This is not consistent with what the men and women in uniform deserve.
Senator Hoeven, then Senator Schatz, Senator Bozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for your.
You can't make this stuff up. This is the kind of garbage that's supposedly lurking in the defense budget. And hey, if that's true, then fine, cut it. Set fire to every useless, asinine, Frankenstein experiment buried in the books. But don't sit there and act like defense health research, like TBI and cancer research for warriors, is the same thing. Because it's not. They're using these obscure, ridiculous examples to justify gutting the funding that helps save our heroes. That's like torching your whole house because you found one mouse in the pantry. A parade or a cure. And here's what really pisses me off. The senator called them out hard, and good on him for it. He said, "You're spending $45 million on a parade, but you're cutting NIH medical research and defense health programs. Is that how you make America great again for military families?" Because let's be honest, friends. What makes America great? Is it flashy parades? Is it puffed-up political ceremonies with flags and flyovers? Or is it how we treat the people who serve and survive on our behalf? If you ask me, greatness doesn't come from pomp and circumstance. It comes from principle, from taking care of your own, from doing right by the men and women who give this nation everything and ask for almost nothing in return. This whole circus is a disgrace. It's an insult to the blood, sweat, and sacrifice poured into every inch of this country by generations of warriors. And the worst part is, it's not even a surprise anymore. This is what you get when you put career politicians and bloated bureaucrats in charge of things they've never bled for, never earned, never understood. You want to fix waste, fraud, and abuse? Fine. Start with the people who rubber stamp budgets filled with parades, climate change reports, diversity training for soldiers under fire, and cat rear-end research. Not the research that's looking for a cure to what's killing our soldiers. What we owe our warriors. I want to speak directly to you, patriots, especially those who've served or have family who have. This is not a political talking point. This is life and death. This is about the invisible wounds of war, the scars that don't bleed but still kill. This is about the promises we made as a nation, that if you fight for us, we will fight for you. So where's the fight? Where are the leaders who stand up and say, "Not on my watch"? We don't cut cancer research for combat vets. We don't gut PTSD programs. We invest in them. Because if we don't stand up and scream about this now, when will we? When the last soldier takes their life because nobody studied what's happening inside their brain. When another veteran dies from a cancer that we could have caught, if the funding hadn't been slashed. Enough. We've had enough. To those of you watching this who still believe in this country, who still believe in honor, in duty, in sacrifice, this is your call to action. Share this video. Email your representatives. Blow up their phones. Tell them we won't stand for this. We won't let the people who wear our flag come home broken and ignored. And to the politicians out there watching, we see you. We see your budget games, your parade spending, your double talk. And we're done being silent. This is Founding Voice America, and we stand for the warriors who stood for us. God bless our troops. God bless the families who never stopped fighting for them. And God bless the United States of America.